And here's the reference, of course. You can have of course, I'll give you the PowerPoints. My pleasure. Thomas Carlyle said, a poor shepherd people roaming unnoticed in its deserts since the creation of the world. A hero prophet was sent down to them with a word they could believe. See, the unnoticed becomes world notable. So it is Islam that made Arabs something, and those who embrace it, of course, not only the Arabs. Within 1 century afterwards, Arabia is at Granada on this hand and at Delhi on that. Again, so a man of reason would definitely wonder at that phenomenon. How did those Arabs become the rulers of the world and revive the sciences that were dormant in the preceding centuries? So what was the motive behind this radical transformation? Muslims will say, and also other anthropologists and sociologists would agree, that Islam's belief system was the cardinal motivator that inspired the Arabs into what they have reached. The other claim, after we finish from the first one, that the opium of the masses does not apply to Islam. Let's look at this statement. Come on, we're in the 21st century. Some would say, you want us to go back to the camels and the tents after all that we have achieved from the laptops and the cars? You want us to go backwards? Islam is outdated. It is based on a revelation that is more than 14 centuries old. The world has changed. Therefore, we need a new way of life. It sounds reasonable if you hear it for the first time. If you don't have from say Islamic defense mechanism, you would accept it. And if your defense mechanism is weak, I'm talking about intellectual defense mechanism, not emotional or rational. In other words, they would say that Islam is backwards and we need to be progressive. First, we have to clarify a few things. Ancient concepts are not necessarily outdated. So people in the old times, thousands of years ago, they used to believe that it is wrong to kill innocent people or to kill children, right? So this is outdated, man. It was thousands of years ago. Let's change that. So this is the first critique. And I'll give you an example. Otherwise, democracy is more backward than Islam, if you want to say that Islam is backward. It is more than 2,000 years old, from the times of Greece, ancient Greeks. Again, secondly, what did really change? They said that the world has changed and man has changed. Let us examine this statement. Humans didn't change. They still need to eat, drink, sleep, still driven by the same urges such as anger and compassion, still have the same instincts, etc. So what did change about human? Nothing changed about human, fundamentally. Also, the physical universe didn't undergo significant changes that would require the change of the system of life. If the world has changed drastically, or to a certain extent, then they will be right that, okay, we need to change our way of life. So the changes that occur to the means, they occur to the means and tools that man is using. Instead of using camels and horses, we're using cars. Instead of sending pigeons with a letter tied to its, leg, we would now send an SMS, right? And emails, etc. So they became faster and more efficient and made man's life easier. This also applies to the field of knowledge and science and the amount of information that man has acquired. In brief, the constants of Islam deal with the constants of man and life, which will never change. The constants that we have just mentioned, some of the examples about them, the main urges and the instincts and the needs of the human being that did not change, and the physical world around us that did not change also. So these are constants, and therefore they need constant laws and principles to deal with them. Now, what about the things that have changed? In addition to that, the Islamic law can always provide us with answers to new occurrences through ijtihad. Ijtihad is giving an effort in order to make a certain ruling concerning a thing that did not exist before during the early Islamist Muslim generations. And this ijtihad, or this endeavor, is based on the Muslim sources. For example, there is a hadith that says, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. You should not harm yourself and others, and even if somebody harms you, you are not allowed to harm him back. You should go and complain to the government. This is the way it's supposed to be. There's no vendetta in Islam. There's no honor killing in Islam. SubhanAllah. So this is a general rule. It's an authentic hadith by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and this is a general rule. So everything that is harmful, let's say for example now smoking, the early muftis or the Muslim scholars didn't know the harms of smoking as much as we know right now in our times. So this is why some of them said it's not haram. It's only makruh because it brings about some bad smell. Okay, so if someone smokes, he will have a bad breath. So it will be like onion and garlic. So you have to avoid it when you go on a social meeting, or if you go, let's say, onto the masjid, to the mosque to pray. But now it is, from to say, it is, a fact that smoking is harmful to one's health, not only to yourself but also to passive smokers, meaning the ones who are sitting with you in the room when you are smoking. So out of that, we know this general ruling of Islam that you should never harm yourself, nor should you harm others. This means that smoking is haram, smoking is prohibited. So Islam can always provide us with answers, with things that are changing, with variables, with new occurrences. And we have a region of constants, if you want to say, when we talk about Islamic law, and we have also variants that are also, subhanAllah, provided with. We always provided with answers concerning these variants in our lives. Concerning this claim, here we want our freedom. Let us just analyze freedom. Man is never free. He is never absolutely free. We have needs. We have society around us. We want to please people around us. Usually, unless you're antisocial, you don't care. You have urges, okay, you have instincts, and you have leaders. People will follow the leaders blindly. So all these things will drive you and even constrain you. You have also other laws. If people would see that religion is too restrictive, Islam in particular, you see, you have so many restrictions around you. The seatbelt is a restriction, right? The speed limit is a restriction. But it's a beneficent restriction. It's for your own sake. If you had an accident, and you're not wearing your seatbelt, you'll be damaged. You'll be more prone to damage than if you were wearing your seatbelt. The same thing, if you are abiding by the speed limit, there is less possibility to have an accident than if you are not abiding by it. If you're driving 120 and the maximum speed is 60, double the speed, you are more prone to have accidents. So you need restrictions in your life to preserve your life and your dignity and other people's life and dignity. So this is the thing. And also all of those who say, well, I don't want to be religious, I want to be free, that person is not free because he's living, for example, let's say those people who are working 5 days a week. What are they working for? They are working for Saturday Night Fever, right? Or Friday Night Fever. Right? So it depends on which country you're living in. When do you have the holiday, right? And as I remember once, there was at the same hall here, we had a certain symposium about the drawings about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. There was a European, what to say, writer who was sitting in the back. He said, "We don't care about insulting the Prophet or the God, even God. Nothing is holy for us except for our Saturday night hedonism. Hedonism is seeking pleasure, right? So this person is not free. He is a slave for, his own pleasures and instincts. So it is very natural. No one is completely free. So as defined by Islam, real freedom for mankind is to set free from all these constraints, all these earthly and worldly constraints, by submitting oneself to the one and only God. And this submission is not a passive submission. It's an active submission because you have duties to perform towards yourself, towards the society, subhanAllah. So you have to fulfill these rights. You have to perform these duties in order to be a good Muslim. It's not just a passive submission. I submit myself to God, and then you sit down, and then flies will be roaming around you and all that. No, it's totally unacceptable. It is a false image of Islam. Some people will do that and they claim to be Muslim, but this is completely wrong. So this is our definition by freedom, and I hope that this